Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Well, thanks for asking me. I'm sure it'll be very exciting.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess I'd like to start with a little bit of your background and just kind of sharing maybe where you're from and where Jim Gray started.
Well, I was born and raised in the northern British Columbia town of Fort St. John, and my father was a veteran of the Second World War. They moved up to the North Peace in 1923, I believe. And so my history actually started there. I was born in a local hospital in Fort St. John, and here I am in Tees now.
Yeah.
So there's the short version.
Yeah, the short version. Right on. And so, do you have brothers and sisters there with you growing up?
Yeah, I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And we grew, like I said, we grew up in Fort St. John. My 2 older sisters were born during the war in England. And my mother was a war bride, and then she came out after the war when all the war brides come out from Europe. She was actually, like I say, from London, or Windsor actually. And so my heritage on that side is the way I was raised, because my father died when I was 7. So Mom raised us more than anybody, and her British background is more what I grew up with. And my father was born in Melfort, Saskatchewan, but his family's actually from Chatham, Ontario. His mom and dad, so they would come from the Scotch, and years ago in the 1800s or whatever, they immigrated to Canada.
And at some point, he went from Chatham to Saskatchewan.
Yeah, my grandfather would work for the railroad, and he ended up in Melfort, I think, when he died, or Melville, one of the two, anyhow. Okay. And that's where my father was born in 1913 there. And he joined the Royal Canadian Electrical Mechanical Engineers in Edmonton in 1936, when they were still volunteering to go overseas.
Yeah, of course. So when did you leave Fort St. John?
Well, I kind of left there in the late 60s, I'd say. Went down south, Vancouver area, and ended up doing an apprenticeship in carpentry. And then joined the union in 1974, I think, in Abbotsford. And then from there, I was all over the country, from Prince Rupert, Tuktoyaktuk to Palm Springs, California, all over the place, working mostly as a boomer. A boomer is someone that chases these high-priced construction jobs, and you get, you're there for 2 or 3 months, and then you're gone on another, wherever the next big job is happening. Okay. A lot of heavy concrete is what I was into, dams, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. So that took you traveling around, and then I understand, you're a father. Can we talk a bit about how many kids you have?
Sure, I've got 3 sons, and ended up marrying a lady from Vernon, BC, and we lived in Armstrong, Vernon, Armstrong area for, I don't know, about 12 years. While I was still traveling and chasing these jobs. And that's a stupid thing for a guy to do, is be a boomer and try to maintain a marriage. Because you're gone all the time, and you leave your wife to run everything, and then you come home and you want to take control of it. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? When you're the one that was gone, it's just stupid looking back on it. But I think that's what happens to a lot of construction workers or rig workers or people that work away from home, is that they give their wives or better half all this responsibility, and then they come back and they want to take it back, and especially if you're a foreman on a job or something and you're running a crew, and then you come back and you want to run your house the same way, and it's just, it doesn't work, and that's why there's such a high divorce rate, I believe, in that kind of industry.
Yeah. And then on top of it, I know you're in recovery. I guess the
Yeah,
drinking
so-
probably didn't help that much either, right?
No, one constant companion when you're on the road is alcohol, of course. And I drank to excess, and so then my future ex-wife at the time had enough of that bullshit, and she left and took the kids. And, well, she didn't leave, she kicked me out of the house, and she had the kids. And what happened from them is I went for custody, and my boys are all, the 3 boys, and I got custody after a year in court battle in Vernon, and moved up to the Northwest Territories, into a little native community, and I went up there as a town foreman kind of thing, and then they fired their town manager, and I become the manager of the town of Snare Lake, a little village. And I had the 3 boys, they were the only white kids in town, these 3 little blonde kids, and they were 6, 8, and 10. So it was, they survived it, I survived it. So,
Yeah.
you know, some interesting years, those Yellowknife years, or Snare Lake years, really. So.
Yeah. And I guess that was the early part of your recovery.
Yeah, I was only a year into recovery, and here I've got these 3 kids. I'm running a community, and then in the community it was a fly-in community here, Winter Road, every 2 years, and I would have to rely on the local air company to pick me up and take me to Yellowknife so I could catch a flight or do anything. And these little operations are based on profit, and if they had to drop in to pick up one person, chances are they weren't going to do it. They weren't too reliable, I guess you'd put it. And so I thought, well, to hell with this, I might as well get my own pilot's license and buy a plane. So that's exactly what I did. I flew down to Vernon and took I think about 6 trips, got a pilot's license, bought a plane in Kamloops, and flew back to the territories with it. Put it on skis in Yellowknife and took it north to Snare Lake and crashed it on a takeoff in one of the, it was on skis, so it's an exciting adventure that was. And then afterwards I bought a bigger plane, got a 206, and once you get into bigger aviation you need to have an excuse to justify the expense. And so I started a little float operation in Yellowknife, and so I just, you know how life goes.
Were you thinking about aviation before that sort of necessity of needing it?
No, I really had, I really can't say I was thrilled about aviation or anything. I was 40 years old and decided I needed a plane. And,
Yeah, something had to get done, and so you were going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a lifelong dream. I wanted to be an astronaut or anything.
Yeah. Can I jump back a little bit and just talk about maybe some of your drinking days, and can we talk about what that kind of looked like for people out there that are listening?
Well, what's your question?
Well, I guess can we talk about how it started, or maybe some of the contributing factors?
Well, I think part of the problem was, I don't know if it was a problem, part of the lifestyle was my grandmother. In Fort St. John, what happened is the Americans built the highway up to Alaska during the war. And part of their deal was there would be no alcohol north of Puskupi, which was a county seat by Dawson Creek. So there was no alcohol on the highway, and then they went ahead and built the highway, and they had total control in those years of the highway. And so people used to buy liquor in Puskupi and take it up the highway and bootleg it. And my grandmother was one of those people. And then when my father come back from the war, he kind of took over bootlegging in Fort St. John because we still didn't have a liquor store in those years. And so my grandmother moved up the highway and bought an old army camp, and she was up on mile 136. And Dad was in town bootlegging. So when I was a kid, he had gravel truck and a backhoe, and he had a shop that he made into a poker den, and so he'd have card games there and bootleg there, and the police would come, provincial police in those years. And they'd, because he wouldn't sell to anybody under 21. And so that's kind of the environment I was raised in, even though my father died when I was 7 in 1959. He still influenced my life greatly before and after his death. A lot of veterans were around, of course, in those days. It was just after the war, and they kind of took me under their wing, and I'd talk about stuff like Diefenbaker, Buggy Bennett back in the 30s, and all this shit. Here I was a little kid, but I was in these conversations with all these old vets. Yeah. And well, they probably weren't that old at that time, maybe 45, 50, but so they kind of took me under their stride. And of course, there was a lot of drinking going on. Not that they give me any to drink. They never encouraged it one way or the other, but it was a way of life. Yeah. And then I just started.
Do you remember your first drink? Do you remember your first drunk?
My first severe drunk, I guess you'd call it, was, I'd had a few little times before that, but I think I was about 15, maybe 16. And then, and I remember being at this party, and I was working up in Fort Nelson. Here I am working at a gas plant in Fort Nelson, 16 years old.
Oh, really?
Doing steam tracing. Like, they wouldn't even let you in there anymore at those ages. But in those years, everybody...
It was different times.
Yeah, you got kicked out of school in grade 8 was your senior year, and you went working. That's just the way it was. Yeah. But I was at this party, and they'd run out of beer, so there was a bottle of gin there, thankfully, I guess. And I remember drinking this gin straight up, and this lemon gin. And then it hit me all of a sudden. I had to throw up, so I'd make a beeline for the washroom. And I remember distinctly crashing through the door. And one of my good friends, girlfriend, sitting on the can, of course, and I'm, what a stupid, looking back at it, but it's still vivid today. And of course, they were upset at me, God knows why. But, so then I'm on the floor, I passed out, and my best friend went to pick me up and get me off the floor, and when I come up, I punched him and knocked him out, and then, of course, a few of them beat the hell out of me. I remember going up to Fort Nelson next day, I couldn't get my hard hat on, my head was all swelled up. And that was one of my...
Yeah, I guess one of the first of many.
One of the first of many, yeah.
Yeah. And so, how long were you actively drinking?
Well, I quit when I was 39, so not that long.
Yeah. And, okay, so did you have a moment, or was there a series of moments where you realized, okay, this is out of hand and I've got to do something about it?
Well, like every other alcoholic addict, I had many moments. I quit thousands of times. It's staying quit that was a hard thing. And I don't really, there was many times I was winning government contracts and doing stupid stuff that people like me all do. I'm not saying everybody does it. But really, when my family broke up, that was it. I'd become my father, even though I'd often say I didn't want to become my father. I'd become him. And that, I think, was a turning point, and I haven't had a drink since. Not that I haven't needed a drink, I just haven't had a drink since.
Can we talk about that moment
sure,
a bit?
Sure.
Okay, so what happened? How did that look? were you away and you came back and the wife and kids were gone, or?
No, actually, very seldom we go out somewhere socially, and we went out to, my ex had a company party, and we went out to it, and then from the party we went down to the cabaret with a bunch of the people, and we were dancing and drinking, of course, and I flipped out in the dance floor, jealous of her dancing with other guys. I think that's how it transpired. I punched somebody, and then away we went, and I got kicked out, and she went out the other door, and that was that.
Yeah, yeah. I know that. I've had that.
Yeah,
more than once.
What we think as active alcoholics or addicts, that what we're doing at the time makes perfect sense. To us, but not to anybody else in the whole world. That's us.
And okay, so there's a breakup of the marriage. She
Yes.
takes the boys. What happened? What was your
Well,
next
we
move?
got home, and she left the car there, and she had went with somebody else, whoever, some friends of hers. They were all of her work people were there. And by the time I kept circling the bar trying to, and I get back in and she's gone, and so then I get in the car and drive home, and I drive back and she's gone, the dog's gone, the bird's gone, the kids are gone.
Good Hank Williams song.
Oh God. And so I get into pour me, of course, and would not pour me another drink. It was just pour me.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to do something. And normally if you get into a pour me state of mind, you just pour another drink and that solves the problem. But I picked up a phone and phoned Alcoholics Anonymous. And there was a meeting that night in Armstrong's little community. And I went to it and I thought, I gotta do this.
Did you
So-
take yourself there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right on.
I talked to this guy, he told me where it was, and
Yeah.
he couldn't be there. So anyhow, I go to this meeting hall, it's in a church, not in the church basement, but in the annex to the church. And I remember walking up the stairs and going in there and open the door, and here's this big table circle with all these people there. And I thought, they're playing bingo. So I'm in the wrong spot. So I turned around to leave,
Oh no.
and right in front of the steps, which I must have walked around, was this van that said Round Lake Treatment Center. It was a local treatment center there. And there was a van. And so then, through this haze, I realized, no, I guess it's not bingo. And I turned around and went in there.
And that was your
That
first
was my
meeting?
first, October 13th, 1989.
October 13th, 1989.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my start of recovery.
And just so, from that circle, from that meeting, did you get a sponsor?
I didn't get a sponsor for a long time, until the next Wednesday, I think it was. So
Oh.
3 days.
3 days.
And that's a good story, because I'm in this meeting and there's a woman, Joyce Waters, I can say her name now because she's deceased, but anyhow, Joyce was there and I introduced myself and she said, Jim, do you have a sponsor? And I said, no. She says, Daryl, be a sponsor.
Oh.
So that's how I got my first sponsor. And and that's what makes me laugh when guys say, well, I have trouble getting a sponsor. No, there's no trouble. If you want a sponsor, go to an AA meeting and say, has anybody got time to sponsor me? When they ask for questions in the meeting, and you'll get somebody. But if you decide, well, I don't want that guy because he's got the wrong colored shirt, or he's driving a Chevy and I'm a Ford guy, or whatever bullshit we tell ourselves, you'll never get a sponsor and you won't stay sober.
Yeah. How long did you have that sponsor?
Oh, Daryl? Probably 5 or 6 months. I mean, it's not like I ever fired him or anything. I just got a different sponsor later on. But it might have been a year, actually. And the reason I remember that is because I found this fellow that was divorced with 3 kids. And as I was going through the process of trying to get my 3 sons, he was about 12 years ahead of me. did the same thing, was raising his boys. So I kind of gravitated over to him as a sponsor,
Yeah, of course.
which worked for a while, but then I went on to Sid, which Sid was this old cowboy down in Vernon. He was quite a character. And so many of his wise sayings that he had, I still use today. I pass on to new people. You know, he was at that time in his 70s, and I think he lived until he was 93 or something. He'd come up to Yellowknife when I moved there. Like, here's this old guy drive all the way up there, and you know, he was a great sponsor and a great man. I'd ask Sid a question, and he'd say stuff like, "Well, you shouldn't kick a cold turd." I said, "What the hell does that mean? You shouldn't kick a cold turd?" But what it means is if something isn't evident to everybody, don't stir it up, because you never know where the smell's going to go.
Yeah.
Well, that was the kind of thing you'll see that. They were pretty good stuff. So.
Yeah. I think I got sober, but I still liked the chaos, and so I would
Yeah.
do stuff like that, like kick the cold turd, right?
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Love the chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. So 89 until 2018. Great.
So far,
So yeah, I guess so far.
it's been a great ride. To be honest with you, you know, I say this all the time, and I think it annoys people, but as if I give a shit. But you know, every day gets better and better.
Yeah.
You know, how is that possible after 27, 28 years, whatever it is, that it gets better? But it does. It's just an amazing thing. I think the alcoholic addict has so many opportunities. When we're drinking and drugging, we say, "Oh, isn't that neat?" and we go on with our drinking and drugging. Well, when you're clean and sober, these same opportunities are there, and all of a sudden you take advantage of them. You know, and then life just accelerates. So.
Of course. That kind of leads me into this next question. I was wondering about, you know, so those immediate benefits of you putting down the bottle in those early days.
Well, the immediate benefit is I got to see my kids,
Yeah.
and that was immediate benefit. And people say, "Oh, you have to sober up for yourself," and it may be true in their case, but I sobered up for myself, and I sobered up more to get access to my kids, because I'd signed this thing that a restraining order I'd signed, but I, of course, didn't read it, which is most contracts even today. And but it included the kids. I couldn't go near the wife, but she had gone to the police or whoever. Anyhow, I signed it.
Yeah.
So it took me 20 or 21 days in order to see my children, and that was very devastating, because I remember going to where they used to go to the babysitters, and I went there one day to visit these people because we were friends, and I remember going in their door. And there's my boys, and the oldest one's telling the other two, "Oh, you gotta hide, here's dad, you gotta hide." And I thought, "Oh God," I didn't know they were there, so I had to turn around and leave, of course.
Yeah.
And that, as a parent, is devastating.
And it was a big motivator, obviously, for you,
Big
right?
motivator for me, yeah.
Yeah, no, like you say, they say, you know, we're supposed to do it for ourselves and everything. But I think, you know, for myself too, you know, staying sober for my family, you know what I mean? And so I don't cause them, you know, they were the immediate, you know, they were the closest carnage or casualties in my addiction.
I have to say, though, I was still a crazy son of a bitch at that point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's because, okay, here you are sober, so you've been managing your life for years by drinking, and all of a sudden you're sober, and you still have an alcoholic mind. It's the one I was born with, it's the one I'm going to die with. So I have to retrain my mind, but that wasn't an immediate process, I'll tell you, because it was tough. And I remember being just as goofy, sober.
Yeah. You were sober, but there were still all those defects of character.
Yeah, all those, yeah.
Working the 12 steps, what other things other than the 12 steps were you doing to help that change?
Well, mostly it was the 12 steps. In early years, it was strictly the 12 steps. And of course, I like to read a lot and I do that kind of stuff. So I would try to read about how to be a better father, how to be a father, period. You know, what the hell did I know? I didn't grow up with a father. So here I've got these 3 little boys now. How do I father them? So, you know, I could only watch so many Fred McMurray movies about, you know, my 3 sons.
Yeah.
And in the movie world it's perfect, but in reality it can be a bit of a challenge. I was very blessed. The boys, they really didn't cause me a lot of heartache over the years, or a lot of anguish, I guess. I was very fortunate because I see a lot of families that go with alcoholic addict, and the family unit is usually very dysfunctional. And of course, I can say mine wasn't, but maybe it was. You know?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the immediate or short-term or early benefits. Looking over these, 27 years, what would you say would be, some of the benefits now, or when you look on it now, what could you point to and say, this has happened?
Well, if you take the 12 steps seriously, or at least as seriously as you can, there's so many good ideas about this higher power thing. To me, I go on a job site. I set up camps for years, and I remember going on the job site. I'd park before I get on there, and I'd say, "Okay, Lord, don't let me make this any worse than when I got here." And so that was all stuff. One prayer that Sid taught me, and I still use today, is, "Lord, don't let me believe my own bullshit today."
Yeah.
And and that's so profound, a simple thing like that, because I'll get in my head and I'll blow everything up. So it teaches me to slow down, think about what's happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did Sid work with you through the steps?
Not actual step work.
Yeah.
Not really. He was just a big believer in the.
It was through example, obviously.
It was more example. Yeah, I went and did a day program in Vernon, Vernon Treatment Center. It really changed my life. I remember doing a step 3 prayer. And I remember kneeling down. And I know the fellow that kneeled down and the fellow that stood up were 2 different people. I'd released, and for some reason, my higher power let me release my addiction, my mental addiction anyhow. And it was just profound. I remember getting out of there and going for a drive, and just the whole world had changed. The sun had come out, the clouds had moved. It was profound. So I think that was probably my biggest aha moment. And then I just kept building on that, because I could always look back, as I can today, at how that changed me. So you want to believe in prayer, you don't want to believe in prayer, whatever. That's up to you. But if you want to change, you can change. And there's lots of help out there to help you change. And a lot of it comes from places you don't even expect.
Yeah. For sure. I think I experienced myself. Obviously, one of your big accomplishments that have affected me directly was opening iRecover treatment centers. And so, I guess, why iRecover treatment centers? How did this happen?
Well, it's I guess it was planned by God or somebody, not by me.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is my youngest son, Mitchell, had 15 years sobriety, and I was setting up construction camps around Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan. Anyhow, living in Lacombe, we're living in Lacombe area. I'd moved to Pinoka, and Mitchell was working in Lacombe delivering pizza, and I'm up somewhere setting up a camp, and I drive back, and I get back about 2 in the morning and into Pinoka, and I go to bed about 4 o'clock in the morning. About that anyhow, the RCMP phoned, and they've been trying to get hold of me. Because at midnight, Mitchell had been coming home, and a guy crossed the center line and run directly into him on Highway 2A. And the RCMP said, it's not looking good. So I got in my truck and run to Lacombe from Pinoka, and Mitchell wasn't there. They transported him to Edmonton. He was in bad shape. There was a snowstorm, so one of the firefighters took the ambulance and drove him up there, because they needed ambulance guys in the back, I guess. So I get up there, and he's missing. He's got a bone sticking out of his leg, and he's got this dollar collar on, and he's got a broken neck, a piece of jaw missing, a tube down there, and some of his teeth missing, which made it easy for the tube to get in, and his eyes were bandaged. It was a disaster. Yeah. And he was still on the gurney in emergency. I just got there, and my son Andy joined me there, and I thought Mitch was gone. Really did. And so Mitchell goes through this. He's in the hospital there, and they they're keeping him in a coma, an induced coma. And about a week or 2 later, I don't even know anymore, 13 days, I think, they tell me, okay, we're going to bring him out of the coma today. We're going to quit whatever drug they used. And during all this time, they were operating on him every day. And they had worked on his leg. And I remember this one doctor saying to me, no, I'm going to fix his leg. And I thought, what an arrogant asshole. But this guy fixed his leg. Let me tell you, he doesn't limp. He doesn't. Like, what an amazing job those doctors in Royal Alex were. Yeah. And what they did to put Mitchell back together. But anyhow, after this induced coma, they take him off a drug, and he doesn't come out of it. And he had smashed his head on the dash and had some concussions. And they told me he could have possible brain damage. They always give you that worst scenario, which is good, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And I think it took him another 10 days before all of a sudden he come out, because his body just didn't want to come out yet. Eh? Yeah. And from that, he's recovered nicely, and he's going into a nice young man. He was 18 at that point. And, now he's married with 2 children, and life's good.
Yeah. And so from that being fabulous, what happened? How did we get from, okay, your son's almost died, you're in recovery yourself, how did I recover start? How did the treatment center start?
Well, what happens there is it becomes an obvious thing. I remember driving up a highway one time. I knew there was this pre-release prison camp out here for sale that had been in the paper forever and actually taken off a listing. And I thought, how can I get drunk drivers off the road? Because that kid did hit Mitchell. He didn't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to go run into somebody. He's just a drunk driver. And I know, MAD loves, they like to hang them all, and then you don't have any issues. However, it's not really practical today. So I thought, how can I get drunk drivers off the road, knowing how many times I had driven drunk? Yeah. So I thought, well, I know all about camps because I was setting them up, and this camp was here, and I thought, well, why don't I just open a treatment center? And that's like every other decision I make. I just make it, and then
do it. Yeah.
There it was, done.
When was that? What was the date, or what? Like,
I was in Well, it was in early 2005, I think.
Okay.
Because Mitchell got in an accident, I think it was December 30th or 31st
Okay.
in '04, I believe. I mean, the numbers and the dates and times to me are kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
But, you know, I thought, well, here I am with 15 years sobriety, and I go to meetings and I talk to people about the 12 steps and all that stuff. But I really hadn't put a big effort into it because I was busy with my life, and busy with work, and busy raising the kids. And so I thought, well, I'll open a treatment center. So then I thought, I know nothing about it. The only one I'd been to is a day treatment. I'd never been to a government one. Everybody told me, oh, only the government can open treatment centers, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, who cares what other people say?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I thought, well, I'll buy this camp, which I did. And then I phoned Paul Riopel. This is the guy that took me through the steps.
Okay.
And I phoned Paul and I said, Paul, I'm thinking of opening a treatment center. What do you think? Oh, it's probably a good idea, Jim. Where are you at? So I told him, I said, would you come out here and take a look? Okay. So he drives out from Vernon or Salmon Arm and comes up here and we go around the buildings outside because I still haven't got the keys. And say, what do you think, Paul? Oh yeah, this would be a good location. So I said, would you write a program? The same program I went through.
Yeah.
And he said, sure. So then he wrote this program and he got me to hire this friend of his, a guy he had sponsored at that time, John, and John and him built the program. Well, Paul built it and then John was going to present it.
Okay.
But anyhow, that's how it started. And then in the meantime, I was still working, and I'd come here at night. So I might go to, who knows, McMurray and come back at night and do stuff here and get the camp into shape. And of course, it had been sitting there dormant for, I think, 4 or 5 years. There's nothing left in it anymore, except mice.
Yeah.
Jesus, there was mice.
Yeah.
And so then I had to go through the process because it's in Macomb County and they zone it agricultural, even though the government sold it to me as a gravel pit. Macomb County decided it was agricultural, and so I had to go through a zoning process, and then you get these not in my neighborhood people. Only one. The rest of the people here were really great, and they supported it all the way along, and I think in the 12 years it's shown that they made the right decisions.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
And so iRecover started here in Tees, Alberta.
Yeah.
With this in one location, and you know, it started, as you said, as a you know, a release. You know, so it was trailers and it's grown into this now. And so, how did it get to this building?
Well, what happened is I knew nothing about treatment, nothing about business really. And so I went around the province to 2 or 3 other treatment centers, went up to Thorpe and to whatever it is down south there, and talked to the directors. Well, that was good. I thought I'd get some inside information about how to, you know, how this stuff works. Well, they're government employees, and they didn't have a clue. They have no, you know, they know nothing about the money end of it, or they didn't know about the licensing, or they didn't.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. All it did is convince me that they were the wrong people to talk to. They were nice about it, and they helped me,
Oh, yeah.
you know, as best they could, but they didn't have a vested interest as the owner has in how to do this stuff, because they took over things that were already going.
Yeah, of course.
So somehow along the way, I got this book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and I read this book, and this guy just motivated the hell out of me, this Robin Sharma. And in the back it says, if you're interested in, you know, motivational stuff or whatever it said there, come to our thing in Toronto. It's called some weekend event. So, much like everything else in my life, I went to Toronto
Right.
and I went to this convention. And I think I went to maybe 10 of Robin Sharma's. Very intense, worked with everybody there, people that are really into developing their own skills and helping people. Most people are motivated to help other people. So it happened to be the right fit for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny the way that God or whoever is directing my life, it's just the pieces come together. And so at one point, Robin came out here and did a show here, not a show, a presentation. So that's really helped me develop. I'd go there and the staff would be petrified I'd come back because I don't want all these, my head would be like this. And they, oh God, he's gone to another conference.
Yeah.
But it certainly worked good for me. And, you know, that's.
Yeah, and since then it's grown from Tees. How many other facilities do you have?
Well, from Tees, I opened one in Newfoundland, which is a bit of a challenge. That was the first one we were going to open was Northern Arm, and those people got up and I guess it was interfering with their drinking or something.
Yeah,
Geez,
not in my backyard
it's
sort of
not
scenario.
my dog, it was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we ended up out at Woody Point there and found a place that's,
Yeah, beautiful location.
yeah, and the guy, he had phoned me and said, you know, I know you had a problem with Northern Arm, but we'd love you to come out here and take a look at this place.
Yeah.
And he's been such a support ever since. His wife still works there, and his niece, and he does work for us all the time. It's just very fortunate that everything was lined up for me to get that place. And then, while that was going on, there wasn't enough chaos in my life. So I went down to Palm Springs just to get away from here for a while, and I was driving around with this friend of mine, and he said, well, you should open a treatment center here. So I thought, well, God, that's good advice. So I opened one there. It's pretty well how I roll in that sense. I was just doing that DISC assessment this morning, and it says you put a lot of thought into what you're going to do, and I'm thinking, well, what the hell is that? What does a lot mean? You know, once I decide to do it, I do it.
Yeah, you definitely got that personality, that drive. There's
Yeah.
something in you that is kind of unique. You know, I've seen it witnessed it over the years where, you know, when there's something you want to do, it's you get a mindset, and it's just, when the problems do come up, it's like, let's just deal with that problem and then move on. And it's obviously worked.
Well, it's working. It's work in progress. But this friend of mine who I'd known from back in the Vernon years, or Armstrong, him and his wife used to. They lived right next door to me and my wife, and we've been friends over the years. But I hadn't seen him for God knows how many years, 10, 15, 20, whatever. And they ended up in Palm Springs. So we, had lunch together and got reunited kind of thing.
Yeah.
So a few months later, this Rick, he phones me and he's in Vernon. And he says, there's this place there I want to buy, but my wife Bonnie won't let me buy it because there's too much work. But he says, I think it might make a good treatment center. And it was going up for a court auction because it had been shut down as a home, and then it had some water damage, quite a bit. So anyhow, I thought, well, must be a reason. So I go up and, I didn't go up and look at it, but I went up the day before court. I knew it was going to an auction block. I talked to a realtor. And so I go up there and I look through the windows the night before, and yep, it's a mess. So I go to court and I go in there and I offer a bid. or I guess I'd offered a bid, that started the court. And then when I went into court, people have time, they have the opportunity to make a bigger offer.
Yeah.
And there's all these people in court, and I thought, oh God, I'm gonna have to up my ante here. Nobody else bid. So, it was kind of funny, because the judge says to this realtor, well, what was that property worth? And the realtor said, well, last year it was worth between 3 and 4 million. And I don't know what I offered, 120,000, 220, whatever it was.
Someone's higher power in action.
Yeah. And the judge said, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
then I had to go and do a lot of stuff there. And of course we had to, gut the place because of water damage and
Yeah.
spend a couple $100,000 on it. But hey,
yeah.
and then went through, and during that time we're going through the licensing process in BC. And BC is very much like California, they're out of their minds. But we ended up
Yeah.
getting it.
So now it's Tees, Newfoundland, Palm Springs, BC, and you're franchising.
I franchise, trying to franchise, it's a little difficult, mainly because when people phone the franchise, I generally hide because I really, I don't want anything to do with it. And I haven't got the right group yet that wants to do it, but I'm working on that too. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah. There's definitely lots of interest, that's for sure.
Well, I even went to Australia last year. This guy was talking about franchising, so it gave me a valid excuse to go over there and spend 6 weeks. So it's not just Canada and the States, it's all over the world that needs treatment centers.
Yeah, addiction is everywhere. Yeah. And so, can we talk a bit about the iRecover program and what people could expect when they're coming to the center?
Well, the program, the first 4 weeks is based on the 12 steps. And we really take the steps apart, word for word, because all those words in the big book were inspired by something. I think they're God-given. And how they're arranged and how they reflect on the word ahead of them and behind them is an incredible thing when you can break it down and really get an understanding. It's not simply put the bottle away, and you're done. It's changing yourself for the better. And when you change yourself, the world around you changes instead of you trying to change the world. No, the light bulb comes on if you work the program. I'm not saying you have to beat yourself to death and sit there at the pen all day and work, but if you think, where am I at fault? Chances are, every time. Because if you're not at fault, what the hell are you doing like coming to a treatment center?
Yeah.
I say in all my videos is, who phoned who? When you start complaining to me about, you don't want to do this because it's too hard, you don't want to look at what happened there, you don't want to talk about what you did, what kind of asshole you were, and you don't want to talk about that stuff. Well, why'd you come here? When you come here, we're going to assist you in changing everything. That's all.
Yeah.
It's and it could be very little things that you're not even aware of, and we're going to point them out, not to beat you up, but to give you an opportunity to think, maybe I should change. We do all the classroom stuff and video stuff, and a lot of group discussion. And a lot of the therapy that's done here in any other treatment center, I would say, is between participants. They get there talking at night, whatever they're doing, they're socializing, and somebody will hear something from somebody else. And that'll trigger in their mind, shit, that was me. I did that. It's so easy to think you're different than everybody else. But the truth is, we're so similar. And when we can release and say, just because I made $1 million and he's on welfare, there's a difference financially, but it doesn't mean your thinking is any different. And if you can relate on that thinking part, some of the relationships that are built in treatment centers is incredible.
Yeah.
Because these people would never, at any point, associate with each other other than in a bar or at a drug party. They would never, there's nothing communal about it. And so when they get here and they realize everybody's doing the same work, has the same problems, they can change.
It's so important to do the work. I think, thinking that you're just going to come here and you're hanging out for 30, 28 days is not the thing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of hard work that needs to be done.
But there's a lot of people think that, I would say more on the family side than the participant side. Because when the participant gets here, he realizes that, or he gets involved in the group and his thinking starts to shift. However, the people at home are not experiencing this thing. All their experiences is a void of that person not being there, which is probably good, not bad. But the people at home don't quite get it. And so when he comes back, they're going to respond, okay, how do we make him happy before we'll do this? What do we say? We got to guard our words or whatever, all that stuff, because they haven't worked on themselves. And it's very hard to, there's lots of family programming out there, and, you go to church groups, there's all kinds of stuff you could do to prepare yourself for this person coming back. Because the alcoholic isn't the center of the universe. This is a dance, and you're all dancing it. And when you take the alcoholic addict out for a while, and you're still dancing this way, and then you stay in that same step, and you bring him back, you're going to get into that same dance. So it's a waste of money. And then it's a fight for him, because if he's really trying to stay sober, and all of a sudden it's a fight, why? Then he gets into the poor me shit. Why did they treat me like this? Well, because you're an asshole before, so now they're doing it now. But the family has to change. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, dynamic, for sure. And so in that first 4 weeks, program facilitators are going to be taking them through those 12 steps, one-on-one counseling, group counseling. What happens after that first 4 weeks?
Well, the first 4 weeks is, like I said, a lot of work, and it ends up by, they do an I will, which is, they'll say, I'll go to 2 meetings a week, or I'll take my wife on a date every Saturday night, or whatever, any of them, make an I will. We try to get them to do not too many.
Yeah.
Be realistic here. Like, don't say I'm going to go to 20 meetings a week, because it's not doable if you're married, or it's just not doable.
You're setting yourself up.
Yeah, so then you got an excuse to drink. So keep it real, and then the I wills, they're going to present them to their loved one at the ceremony, and the loved one's going to put it on the fridge. Now, Fred said he's going to a meeting every Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night, and the wife says, hey, what's on your list? Yeah. Not on our list, not on her list, but on his list, which is why it's called I wills. And that keeps him honest. And if he can keep up to his I wills, I've never in 12 years had a person come back that has done his I wills.
Yeah, if you follow your I wills.
Because they're your I wills, So that's a very big piece. And then another piece we do here on the 12-step side is we write our addiction on a rock. We have a graveyard here. And we'll, in a ceremony, we'll go leave the headstone there and say, I leave my coke habit, or whatever it is. Whatever, there again is their words. And they'll leave that in the ceremony so that now they've physically left something. And then in step 4, they burn all their resentments and stuff. So they've got all this new energy. There's so much going on. Like, this is all going on at the same time. And so he's got all this new information, new ways of doing stuff, how to have interrelationships with people. Here they have to have relationships with all other participants, so it's a learning curve. And then we prefer they stay and do CBT, the cognitive behavior therapy.
Yes.
Which is more about how to change your action based on your thoughts. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily going to change your thoughts, it's going to the way you look at your thoughts. because I don't believe our brains will ever change. But now that we know we have these issues, we can look at it, okay, I'm thinking this way, why am I thinking that way? What's the benefit to me? What's the benefit, and do that analysis, and then they can change the outcome. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
it's pretty,
Well, I had very distorted thinking patterns, that's for sure.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's CBT. And so that CBT is in that second block of 4 weeks to make 8 weeks.
Yeah, and the value of that is all of a sudden you got all this information of cleaning up all your past, and now you have the ability to think, look at your thoughts differently. Plus, you got 8 weeks sobriety.
Yeah, a good
And
head start.
and that's a part of it. It's a length of sobriety. So that gives you that extra boost, it gives you that extra confidence. The people around you can see, okay, he did that first 4 weeks, he survived that. Now, can he carry it on? Well, he's been there 8 weeks now. And during that second half, we encourage you to go home on weekends, so you have passes, so you're not thrown back into that family environment and nowhere to go. So now you go back there, test some stuff, you come back, talk to your counselor and say, how did that go? And well, I was an asshole or whatever, and then you can look at it and you can work with help. And next weekend you go and try it again. And,
Yeah, it's really about being provided with the tools, exercising with those tools, getting to learn how to use them. I mean, it was only over time and by doing it repetitiously that I was able to change my thinking. And now it's still I have to think about it, but it's more immediate now than it was then. I
Exactly,
still had to count to 10, step back, and and there's an extended program. So can we talk about 12 weeks?
well, if you do 12 weeks here, what we want you to do in that last 4 weeks is present the program. So now you've watched how it's presented, you've learned why it's presented, you understand your thinking patterns, you're into CBT. Now, we want you to present the program. So you would start, we have a video library, which Danica, the director, has done here, on how to present the program. So you'll watch that video and then you go in front of your peers, but now you're going in front of them as an instructor and you're going to present the program as Danica would or any other counselor would. And I think the value of that, from my perspective anyhow, is that it really ingrains in you not only that you learn the program, but why you were taught the program. And now you get an understanding of the back side of it. And so now that's really entrenched in your thinking. And that's what we encourage people to do. The few that have done that and carried on are counselors, or techs we call them, but they're presenting the program.
Yeah.
And there's so much value in that, because you're still an alcoholic addict. So you have to live in that environment, knowing what your mindset is and how you think. And this just enforces it. Not that you're an addict or an alcoholic, but how to change, and the value of doing whatever we're doing. And then when you go home, you're going to help more people. And the more people you help, the more you're going to be helped. It's a crazy system.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great benefits of this program is being able to give back and help others.
And one other thing in this program, years ago when the iPad first came out, well, it was another one, that audio book or whatever it's called, that you could buy and then you'd have a book to read.
Yeah.
And what happened, I got one of those and I thought, well, we'll put the program on there. It's a good idea. And like everything,
Yeah.
did a lot of thought there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't put it on there because it wouldn't take PDFs. So the iPad came out a couple weeks later. And I went and bought an iPad. We've been loading iPads ever since. put the programming on there, all your homework on there, everything's on there. And now like when your extended program, we're gonna put on how to present the program. So you got all these tools with you at all the times. So if you wanna look at something, what did I say about presentment? I better go back and look. You know, and it's just another tool.
Yeah.
It's not the be all and end all, but trust me, it's another tool. And while you're here, you can actually converse with everybody after the first week. You can get on to an email and voice chat and
connect with family.
yeah,
and
and connect with family and live your life somewhat. It gives you that other opportunity to do that. So.
I think that peer support through that tablet is really awesome too. You know what I mean? That when you leave here, you're not on your own. You can, go to those how it work meetings and connect with each other.
Well, which is another thing we do here in the lifelong support is that we have a meeting. There's actually 4 meetings a day, but we host one here every morning, 7 days a week. So you can actually phone in 7 days a week. You can join the meeting. The last week of your programming here, you do the morning meeting on the phone so that you're comfortable phoning, dialing, understanding, and all of a sudden you know all these people on the phone call. So it's not like we're asking to go home and then phone back and we're going to show you how to do it. We're going to make you do it that last week. There's people phoning in every day from Newfoundland and New York, and LA has got a big contingency. And if one meeting isn't enough, there's 4 on it a day. So you can phone LA if you have, international calling. But we have one here, and we get all these calls from the States because we're the morning meeting here at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
LA time is 8 a.m. here. So, yeah, and that's a big piece, and that goes on forever, and we're going to sponsor that forever because it's really good. We used to try another thing where we'd phone you once a week. Well, good luck. First of all, you're not there. Second of all, if you see that caller ID and if you don't want to talk, you won't talk.
Yeah.
And you might lie through your tooth. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, this way, the initiative is on your side. You phone in to that meeting. We have all this relationship. The counselor runs the meeting. And so everybody knows everybody, and it's a pretty neat thing. So.
It's nice having that connection. Yeah. So, when it comes to the individual out there right now looking for help, suffering, what advice could you give them?
Well, you don't have to suffer alone. And however, at home, chances are you're making everybody else suffer, so you're not really suffering alone.
Yeah.
However, if you want to change your way of life, you certainly, any 12-step meeting is good to go to. I know, for me, I needed that extra boost. I needed some direction, and I think the 12-step groups are good in the sense it gives you a relationship and people to share at meetings. But it's pretty hard. I would say somebody doing a month here is equal to going 5 years to AA and NA meetings because you learn so much. It's concentrated, but you learn so much. And here you go right through to step 12. Here's all you can do step 12, well, bullshit. You can do anything you want. This program is nowhere in the book that can't say, you can't sponsor somebody in a week or in a day or anything else. How the hell did Bill and Bob do it? I mean, they didn't say, well, you got to have 2 years before you can run the meeting. There was only 2 of them. So these stupid ideas that come up, in my opinion, is craziness. If you want to start a meeting, I just had some of our past participants, or the other night, I give them a big book and everything in the format for the meeting, and they're starting a meeting up by Grand Prairie there in the community. And they phoned me last night and said the only hall we have has the liquor in it. Well, said, don't drink. I mean, have your meeting. It's, there's going to be alcohol and drugs everywhere. So forget about, well, I got to, pour everybody else's booze down the drink. They didn't abuse it. You did. So quit drinking. Quit drugging. Don't tell other people they have to. How did you like it when people told you you had to quit drinking? Didn't work. So don't get don't become holier than thou because it won't work.
Yeah, none of us like to be told what to do. Yeah, okay. And so, how about advice for the family member who has a family member that is, in trouble and maybe isn't ready for help, or they haven't quite admitted that they need help? How would you go about approaching that person?
Don't beat around the bush and try to, because we're great at that. Don't try to manipulate a manipulator into cleaning up and sobering up, because you're going to lose. I mean, if you know the alcoholic addict in your life, you know he can manipulate any situation. So why would you think you could manipulate him? It's just craziness. Get in the car, we're going to go to Dairy Queen and take him to a treatment center. I mean, come on. Be straight up. Look you're being an asshole, you ruined the family, we're going to end this, we're going to get a divorce, we're going to kick you out, whatever it is, but you got to stick to it, I'm not a great one for tough love. I don't believe that necessarily works, but I believe in tough honesty works. If you're honest with the person, and maybe they won't see it today. And just because your alcoholic doesn't sober up, doesn't mean you can't go to Al-Anon or Al-Anon online or a church group, or you need support. Because if you think the only sick person in your house is you, or is your alcoholic, it's not true, because you've been living under the influence of for years, or drug addict, same thing. And to think that they're the only ones that have to change, leave them alone. If they don't want to quit drinking, if they drink themselves to death, it's unfortunate, which is not your responsibility to get them clean and sober. It's his. You can put out all the offerings you want, but you should worry about yourself and worry about your children. Do what you can to make life good. And maybe the alcoholic will come on board, maybe he won't. But quit this constant battling about you either do this or do that, or I'm going to do all this negotiating bullshit. I don't believe it. Just be straight up. We're going to end this, or you're going to, or let them drink. Say, I'm going to town, we're going to town with the kids, and, well, you can't go because, well, no, you're going. If they want to join you, they can't go unless they're sober. That's the kind of influence I believe works more in a family than trying to force somebody or lie to them, or an intervention. I mean, I guess interventions work. But that intervention, it has to look at the family too. It's so much about the family. And the family might be a single alcoholic out there with no family, or but nobody's alone in this world. So your family might be a work family and they're tired of you, or your church family, or your pool playing family, or whatever, and they're tired of your antics and your bullshit. So take a look at yourself and change.
Yeah. Well, Jim, that's some great advice. I really appreciate getting the opportunity to, hear your insight, some of your backstory. I look forward to doing some more of this and sharing, some more of your insight and getting deeper into this and talking more about family and things like that in the future.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, Jason. And Jason is on the chuck wagon circuit, and all of a sudden he become a cowboy out here. You bring a guy from the city, all of a sudden he's a cowboy. I haven't seen him on a horse yet, but he's got boots and hats, and he's doing all this rodeo stuff right now. So might become an Albertan. Who the hell knows? But thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's been an awesome adventure.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jim.
Bye.
Yeah.